All right, so this is gonna be a review of Artemis Fowl from 2020. It's directed by Kenneth Branagh. When it first came out, I reviewed it, and it was on Disney Plus and everything. It's a book adaptation, a book series. According to the fans of the book, it's not a good adaptation. I haven't read those books. As a movie alone, I thought it was horrible back then. I put it on my worst list that year, and I still think it's horrible now, rewatching it today. But I will say, though, I didn't remember just how messy this movie is. It is a mess. I mean, clearly there was some production issues with this thing. So in this, we have Artemis Fowl, played by Fredia Shaw. Artemis Fowl Sr.'s father, played by Colin Farrell, is captured by the villain in this, which I believe was Opal Cowboy, this mysterious hooded figure captures Artemis Fowl Sr. and calls Artemis Fowl and is like, hey, I got your father, and the only way that you're going to get him back is if you find the Aculos for me. It's this powerful artifact that is Artemis Fowl Sr. is believed to have. It's a artifact that the fairies use, and I guess it can create portals and things, and that's why the villain wants it. And so now Artemis has to find a way to get it. So Artemis Fowl Senior has been telling Artemis Fowl, all these stories about fairies and trolls and different things, and he thought they were just stories. Turns out they're actually those things are actually real, and fairies, trolls, and things like that. They actually live inside the earth. They have this area that they live in. And so now him, his butler, and also the butler's niece gets involved. They come up with a plan, and the plan is to actually capture one of the fairies, Holly Short, played by Laura McDonald, and use her as a bargaining chip against the other fairies to get them to help Artemis find the Aculos and get his father back. So, like I said, this movie is a mess, but positives that I'm really, really scraping for. I do think that the some of the actors are good. We'll get back to Fredia Shaw, but I thought Josh Gad is annoying, and this character's annoying, but I thought his performance was actually good. So I got to be fair. And then also Colin Farrell, he's doesn't he's not in the movie that much. He doesn't do all that much. He's mostly just captured with the villain. The villain comes in to say things to him and walk out. And then there's flashback scenes of him and Artemis Fowl, but uh, for the time he's there, he's good. Also, I do think the actress that plays Holly, the fairy that gets captured by Artemis, I think she's actually good. The actress Laura McDonald, I think she's good, right? Like, uh, whenever she's given lines with Fredia Shaw, like you can definitely tell the difference where he's not really up to this, and seemingly she is. So where to start with this? There's a lot to get to. We can start off with Fredia Shaw, our lead actor here. This kid clearly was just not ready for this, right? He wasn't. He's not good at this. He's really not good. I mean, even just there were scenes I was watching where he's not even given lines, and he's still bad. Like even just facial expressions, he looks confused. Like he doesn't know what facial expression he should be using for this scene. I mean, it is bad even with no lines. But with the lines, for the most part, there was one scene where he was talking to, I believe, it was a therapist. He's being little smug, Oh yeah, I only look up to Einstein. His theories were usually correct. He's being smug, being kind of an asshole. But that's the point of it. And I thought that came across pretty well in that scene. I was like, okay, he's actually okay here. Pretty much the rest of it, though, he is just terrible. I mean, his line delivery is so bad.
I have your father.
What? Who is this? Is this a hoax? If you have my father, I want proof.
While we're on Artemis for Dia Shaw, uh, this movie is such a mess and clearly has some production issues. Like as I'm watching it, it fluctuates when it comes to how old he looks. What it feels like is it feels like they did reshoots, but it had been a while maybe, and so he had kind of hit kind of a little growth spurt because he looks different. Like he's different ages depending on the scene. I mean, it just kept going back and forward because he looks taller. You can kind of see in his face he looks a little bit older. Also, there's points where I guess maybe he had cut his hair or something, or his hair wasn't the way it was, so it looks like he's very obviously wearing a wig to make his hair look thicker. Like it looks like thicker than it does at other points in the movie. I'm like, what is this mess? And it's not just that. There's so many points of just jarring editing. Like I remember there was one point, it was right after he he captured Holly, and she wakes up in the bed, and she wakes up, and then it feels like there's a cut, and then she says, "Not happy" or something. It was really jarring. It's like, okay, that editing wise just didn't work.
Not happy.
There's multiple action scenes where it'll be sped up in this really weird way. Like when they first introduce the butler character in this, I think his name was Dom. He doesn't like being called butler. Anyway, uh, he has the white hair and everything, and he's trained in martial arts and things. And I guess so is his niece. So they introduced him and then the niece, and then they're fighting each other, and they have these outfits on and masks, and it's all sped up and weird and cut up all weird. And then there's also that scene, which I assume is only there because they wanted to put in the trailer. Where they shoot at there's this point where they're fighting the fairies outside of the like mansion, outside the manor or whatever, Foul Manor, and it's all sped up and cut up all weird, and then, they shoot this arrow at the time freeze, we'll get to that stuff, and that looked really bad. I was like, "What is this?" It's such a mess. The CGI looks like shit. Like, even the smallest stuff, like, you have fairies all through this thing. You could at least make it look good when the fairies fly around. No, that shit looks like a PS2 cutscene for a lot of it. For a lot of the movement when it comes to the fairies flying around, it looks so bad. The troll, there's a troll in this at, like, I think at, like, 2 points in the movie, you see the troll and he's attacking. That doesn't look good. It's like, "What?" Like, come on, like, why does this look so bad? There's so many problems with this, just not even getting to the plot, and then the plot is also really bad. Starting off, you have this scene that takes place at the end, but at the beginning, where Mulch Diggum's played by Josh Gad in this. He ends up he's a dwarf and he digs and stuff. We'll get back to him, but he's being interrogated at MI6 because they grab him because he's at Foul Manor after everything goes crazy with the time freeze and everything, and he's there to give exposition. Right, I get this as a kids movie, but he's there to give exposition on a lot of stuff. I mean, he shouldn't even know the things that he's given exposition on. Like, he gives exposition explaining the butler and, like, running down his basically his resume of him, learning martial arts and things like that. It's like, but you don't really know the Fowls all that much or the butler, right? Like, you just happen to be there because they used you to get the Aculos and everything at the end. So it's like, why do you even know all that? But why do you even know enough to give these people this information? But anyway, that's exposition, and then you have flashbacks that are there for exposition, just to explain trolls and fairies and their area. I forgot what it was called. It's Haven City. That's the place where like the fairies and all that. It's like a city with trolls and stuff, and that's there to get explained. There's scenes with Artemis and his butler. I think his name was Dom. He's explaining things to him, how the time freeze works, even though we just saw the time freeze earlier. It's just like it is chock full of exposition. I mean, right from the start, the story isn't really making all that much sense because his father, Artemis Fowl Sr., is supposed to be an absent father. His mother's dead, and they don't even really go into it because he just has a dead mother. Who, who really cares, I guess. But his father yeah, his father is supposed to be absent, but you see a montage of him being there with his son. I mean, because he teaches his son about these things so that he can use the knowledge that he gotten along with going through his dad's study and things like that. But his dad told him about a good amount of these things, and you see them together, and they seem to have a pretty good relationship. It's like, okay, you're telling me this is an absent father, like, that his father is just never around, but he seems to be. What you're showing me is the opposite. So automatically there's an issue there with explaining that. His dad is a collector of things. And it's like, okay, that's just to say what he does. And it's believed that he's a thief and that he's stolen things. He stole the Rosetta Stone and things like that. They don't even end up going into that. It seems like he didn't actually do it, but they don't go into, okay, why do they believe he did and who did then? It's just like you spend a lot of time with this other character, Holly, because they really need to set up the Haven City and all that, right? There's these different creatures and things, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, okay, well, this is kind of interesting, but like, there's not you're not really doing enough with it. You're not really explaining things because it's like there are so many fairies. The way this movie works is just fairies and humans, but it's like no, there are also trolls and dwarves. Josh Gad's character is just he's tall, but he's a dwarf, and they like to pickpocket and they're thieves, and that's why he's going to the the fairy prison in the beginning. And then you also have what were they? They were goblins, and they're gangsters for some reason. They got gold chains and stuff, right? And they're about to punk Mulch Diggums, Josh Gad in prison. And it's like, okay, well, you're not really developing the magical side of this because you're so focused on Holly and the fairies and all that. Like she's really focused on clearing her father's name. I believe his name was Beechwood. So her father is the reason why Artemis Fowl Sr. even has the Aculos because the father wanted to keep the Aculos safe. So he stole it and then gave it to Artemis Fowl Sr. because I guess he believed it would be safer with him instead of with the fairies, which I mean, I guess he was right because the villain wants it to just take over, but it seemed to have been okay with the fairies before then. So like that didn't really make sense. That's Holly's motivation though, is clearing her father's name. She gets sent to deal with the troll, and she deals with the troll. They do the time freeze thing. The time freeze thing is the thing they send up in the air, and it makes a bubble around that area, and the time freezes in that area, but sometimes it doesn't. I guess they can control that. There's a bunch of technological stuff, that I don't really get. I mean, it's supposed to be all about magic, but it seems like it's mostly about technology. But I didn't really fully understand how the time freeze was. As much as they do exposition, they don't fully explain that time freeze, especially when things happen later on. But whatever, I don't fully understand. Like they live under under the surface, like they live inside the earth, and they have to use this thing to go through like a volcano or something to send people up to the surface. That happens multiple times in this, but then they also can just put people in a bunch of ferries and ships and send them to the surface that way. The thing about this is your main character and also the people around him, they can't really do that much in the plot early on because I mean Artemis Fowl didn't even know that the fairies actually existed. So he has no way to get to them, contact them. They live in inside the earth. And so he really just sits around, doing stuff on a computer, looking through his dad's stuff until he can finally capture the fairy. And the only reason he's able to do that is because Holly is so obsessed with clearing her father's name that she goes to a place that I believe her father used to go to on the surface, and then they just capture her from there. So they really are just sitting around for a good bit. And he captures her there, and he brings her back. And the fairies can control people's minds if they can look in their eyes, so he wears sunglasses. And it feels like if he's supposed to be a criminal mastermind, he doesn't feel like it at all. He seems like a desperate kid that just wants his dad back. So when when he captures her and he's like wearing sunglasses, he's like, and the fairy's like, oh, they're gonna come after me. It was like he's like, I'm counting on it or whatever. It feels out of character.
You'll have to keep me here forever.
If that's what you want.
You'll never get away with this. My people will come for me.
That's what I hoped you'd say.
His whole genius plan is just capturing a fairy, which there's no guarantee he would have been able to do. Capture a fairy, and then hopefully the other fairies just all go there to get that fairy back, and they're not just like whatever. And then when they all get there, having because you have to invite them in, inviting one in, or the leader, which is played by Judy Dench. I can't remember the character's name, and then negotiate with them to get the Aculos, which they may not even know where it's at, right? It just happens to be in the manor, but he doesn't know that. They don't know that, and get the Aculos back so that he can then get his father back, either by giving the Aculos to the villain, which he ends up not being able to do, or getting a fairy to use the Aculos, which he's only able to do because he just snap of the finger basically becomes friends with Holly after just capturing her. I mean, they are antagonistic to each other, and then just out of nowhere, he's like, he takes his glasses off, right? I trust you. I was like, where did that come from? You just captured her, and you were being a smug asshole to her. Now you guys are just friends. Now you guys are just working together. You guys trust each other. It's just like this thing is stupid. And they also have the whole thing with the time freeze. Like they put the time freeze over the manor, and they have that whole thing, and then the butler shoots it with an arrow, and it starts to malfunction, and that's like a problem for them because they're going to be revealed, I guess, to the humans. Like they usually use the time freeze time, and then they wipe people's memories. So they wouldn't be able to do that, I guess, with the time freeze malfunctioning. It's really it's a real mess, this story. It's really hard to understand, to fully understand, because like, the time freeze, like, as much as there's you have there's a scene of Artemis, explaining to the butler about the time freeze, they don't go into enough detail for you to know why it malfunctioning is a problem or what it's doing when it malfunctions or whatever. It's like, oh, it's ridiculous. Because the fairies can't go in to the manor without being invited in, right? This is also part of Artemis's plan. That's when Mulch Diggums gets involved. And so they bring Mulch Diggums from the fairy prison, and they bring him up there so that he can dig, because that's what dwarfs do, and he can dig into the manor. And then because he's just so into treasure, being a dwarf, obsessed with it, that he's just able to find the Aculos in the manor. Artemis doesn't even know the Aculos is in there. So he doesn't know where it is. He doesn't know if know it's in the manor, right? He doesn't know that. Like, there's things about dwarves that he knows, but he doesn't know that the Aculos is actually there or that the dwarf would be able to get to it, but that's also part of his plan. You're right. Like, this plan is crazy, and it just happens to work out because it's a movie. Mulch Diggums, and that's the worst effect in this movie. Mulch Diggums, he stretches his, and they set this up with like some lines of dialogue earlier. So he stretches his mouth, and he can dig by eating the dirt, and then he like farts it out of his butt. That's ridiculous. And that's how he's able to dig and get inside. So there's also this other guy, and I was really confused about this situation. There's this other guy who I guess he was a fairy that got into some trouble, and the villain is able to talk to the executives that I guess are at the head of the fairy police force or whatever it is, and get him released. And then he's also spying for her, and that's that's where you get the line, "You spy or you die." There's so many bad lines of dialogue in this.
You will infiltrate Fairy Command on my behalf.
I spy.
You spy or you die.
Errant trolls, abducted fairies, whatever next. If the executors find out about this, you'll be finished.
Get the four-leaf clover out of here.
So that guy, he's giving them issues and things like that, and takes command away from Judy Dench. I didn't understand that. I was like, how's the villain able to influence things to this level, to get somebody out of prison, and to then have him just part of the force, and then he's able to like take over. It's like that whole thing was dumb, but it's really unnecessary when it comes down to it. The whole reason why this guy's even involved in this, and he's able to take control from Judy Dench, is so that he can send that troll in there. So the troll is inside the manor and attacking them and things like that. And the butler is going to die, but he's saved by Holly at the last minute because Holly can heal people with her magical powers. But when they were fighting the troll, the fairies turned off the magic in the manor. I guess that's something they can also do. I don't understand the magic or the technology in this thing. But they take care of the troll, and then the time freeze really starts to malfunction. And this is a really confusing part to me because the time freeze starts to malfunction, and then it starts sucking the fairies into it and things like that. And it's like they're like running for their lives. They're like, oh, shit, this is supposed to be a big deal. And Holly goes back because she's worried about Artemis. And so it malfunctions. All the fairies basically get sent away, or they leave or escape. And then you see the sky change, and Artemis, Artemis walks up. He has the Aculos in his hand, and I have no idea what happened there. Like, what happened with the the thing the thing malfunctioning because Holly went back because she said that Artemis wouldn't survive the malfunction of the time freeze, but he's perfectly fine. He's just, just walking around afterward holding the Aculos. It's like, what happened there? It's like it was just a way to get the fairies out of there. It's like, oh, it's so stupid. But then Holly is able to use the Aculos 'cause only a fairy can use it. She's able to use the Aculos to get the dad back. And it's right before the villain's about to kill him, so that's good. And that's pretty much it. That's when the movie goes back to the beginning part where Mulch gets taken by MI6, and so there's reporters all around and things like that talking about the dad. And oh my god, the ending of this movie. That's the one thing I'll never forget. The ending is so fucking cheesy. It's so cheesy with Artemis be like, I'm a criminal mastermind, and him looking over at his dad being like, "You think I'm ready?" And his dad's like, "I know you're ready." It's like, bruh, like you guys aren't even taking on the villain in this movie. It's just the ending of this movie is them getting the dad back and then deciding to go after the villain and the list of co-conspirators with the villain. And now Holly has her own force that are going after those people too. And so she's also working with Artemis and all that. And there's a point where she salutes the people in her group. It's so cheesy. And then they break Mulch Diggums out after he's given all that information. Of course, the people at MI6 don't believe him. And so they break him out and he's yelling like, "Yeah, I love my job," and everything. It's like, man, he barely knows these people. And it's like, come on, it's so cheesy. Like, yeah, let's go and get it. It's like, well, we're not gonna see that. So this movie is such a mess, man. It's all over the place. I don't understand these concepts. There's so much exposition, but it's so hard to understand because they don't really actually develop the magic or develop the technology or this Haven City with all these different creatures in it. And Artemis and his father, his father's backstory of what he actually does and all that. And Holly's father's relationship or friendship with Artemis Fowl Sr. is like, this isn't really developed. You just have characters just giving lines, and it's such a mess. You could tell that there are extensive reshoots involved in this, and it just some things I moved around and things. It's just so it does not work at all, man. I'm sure this does not do justice to that book series at all. Anyway, that's Artemis Fowl. I'm giving it trash. Is what I gave it before. I'm not quite there to give it my bottom rating. 'Cause it's kind of interesting in parts. So I can't quite go my bottom rating. It's pretty close though. It's pretty close to it though. Like I could probably be convinced, but I just don't feel like it. But man, this is a mess. Wow, this is bad. Anyway, yeah, that's Artemis Fowl. Trash. Subscribe and we're done.